If you've ever worked in the SAP world, you know that feeling. That fear of making one little customization that ends up breaking everything when it's time to upgrade. For years, that was just the deal. But, over the last decade, there's been this massive evolution, a whole new philosophy that's moving us away from that fragile model to something way more modern and flexible.
So let's just jump right in with the big question, the one that every single company using SAP has to answer. How do you actually innovate? How do you build the custom stuff your business is screaming for, without creating this legacy nightmare that paints you into a corner and makes upgrades impossible? It's a huge, huge challenge.
Well, the answer is this whole strategy called the clean core. And the goal here is actually pretty simple. Think of your SAP system like a house. In the old days, to add a new room, you'd be knocking down structural walls. Risky, right? The clean core approach is like building a beautiful separate extension that connects perfectly but doesn't mess with the original foundation. It's all about building in a way that guarantees smooth upgrades, and it all rests on three big interconnected pillars.
All right, so let's jump into pillar number 1. This is probably the most tangible change, the one developers can really see and feel every single day. We're talking about the tools, the very environment where all the code gets written, and it has been completely reimagined.
We are talking about a night and day difference here. It's this fundamental shift from the classic, old-school SE80 transaction inside the SAP GUI to the modern text-based ABAP development tools, or ADT, which run right inside the Eclipse IDE that so many developers already know and love. This isn't just a facelift, it's a totally new way of working.
And what's so cool here is that every one of these features is like a direct answer to an old-school developer's prayer. You can have dozens of tabs open at once. You can finally use your big, wide monitor effectively. You can find anything instantly with this amazing search. It's all about getting rid of the old frustrations and just letting developers be productive.
And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from a developer says it all. The old limit of 6 sessions was a constant source of pain. You'd have your program, a debugger, a few data objects, and you were out of Windows. It just completely broke your flow. That whole problem? It's just gone in Eclipse.
And then there's this. This is a total game changer. It's a feature called Quick Fix. You hit a simple keyboard shortcut and boom, it generates all the boilerplate code for you. What used to be minutes of tedious manual typing and clicking is now literally done in a second.
Okay, so we've got these awesome new tools that let us code way faster. But what about the data itself? How we access it, how we model it? Well, that's our second pillar. And believe me, it's just as big of a revolution. This is where that idea of code to data really shines.
This table really breaks it down. We're moving from the old way, using ABAP dictionary views where you'd pull millions of records up to the application server to process them, to the new world of core data services, or CDS views. Now we push the logic down to the database. We're letting the incredibly powerful SAP HANA database do all the heavy lifting for us, which means a huge performance boost.
But it's not a free-for-all, You don't just create these CDS views randomly. There's a master plan, a blueprint, and it's called the Virtual Data Model, or VDM. Think of it like a set of Lego instructions for building your data models in a way that's reusable, clear, and easy to maintain.
And this layered approach is so important. You start at the bottom with basic views, which just expose the raw table data. Then you move up to composite views, and this is where you build your reusable business logic. And finally, at the very top, you have consumption views, which are perfectly tailored for a specific Fiori app or API. This structure is what stops you from reinventing the wheel for every single application.
And here's the kicker, the part that ties right back to our clean core idea. CDS views were designed to be extended without modification. You use a special command, extend view. Remember that sticky note analogy? That's exactly what this is. You're adding new fields or associations without changing the original object at all. It's the clean core principle in action. It's brilliant.
All right, we've got the modern tools. We've got a smarter way to handle our data. So how do we put it all together? That brings us to our third and final pillar, strategy. This is about using these new powers to make the right architectural choices. This is where the rubber meets the road.
And really, you've got 2 main paths you can take. First, there's on-stack extensibility. That's where your custom code lives right inside the S/4HANA system itself, perfect for things that are tightly connected. Your second option is side-by-side extensibility, where you build a completely separate app on the SAP Business Technology Platform, or BTP, that just talks to your core system through APIs.
And within those paths, there are different ways to build. You've got key user extensibility. Think of this as empowering your business experts, the people who really know the process, to make simple changes themselves, adding a field, tweaking a screen, all through easy-to-use apps. Then you have developer extensibility. This is for the pros, giving us the full power of Eclipse to build really complex, robust applications.
So, now you know all the options. On stack, side by side, key user, developer. The big question is, how do you choose? Which path is the right one for your project? It's not always as obvious as it seems.
And this is probably the most important thing to get. These three pillars, tools, data, and strategy, they aren't separate things. They're a package deal. They all work together. They enable each other. You need the modern tools to build those modern data models. And you need those data models to make a clean extensibility strategy even possible. It's one unified system.
So how do you decide? Well, it often comes down to a couple of key questions. Here's the first one. Does your custom logic absolutely have to run in the exact same database transaction as a standard SAP process? I mean, like adding a custom check before a sales order saves. If the answer is yes, then OnStack is your world.
But what if you're building a whole separate application that just needs to talk to SAP? Or maybe an app for your customers or suppliers, people who would never have an SAP user account. In that case, the side-by-side approach on BTP is your best friend. It gives you so much more flexibility on technology, on scaling, on everything.
So when you bring it all together, the modern tools, the modern data models, and the modern strategy, you're doing way more than just customizing a system. You're actually building a future-proof platform for innovation. You're giving your organization the power to adapt and change without getting trapped by its own tech. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?